Hello, everybody. I really am so glad to be here. My name is Dana Cope. I've been a teacher on special assignment for the last 4 years, but a classroom teacher for the last 17 years, teaching grades K through 5, and lots of combination classes. My husband is a middle school teacher, and we just are really proud and honored to be educators, and we're thankful. We're just thankful to have this opportunity. I'm a mom and a teacher. Any moms in the audience and dads? And then any teachers in the audience? Okay. Any administrators in the audience? Okay. So it's all about making opportunities for kids and keeping all of our kids moving forward. So prior to this, I was in the classroom teaching a second, third grade combination, very excited about the prospect the following year I was going to have a straight grade. And so was teaching happily in the classroom. And while that was happening at Salvador, I was at Salvador Elementary School. And while that was happening, there was our GATE District Advisory Committee was meeting and coming up with some plans. Oh, no?
Are you clicking?
We'll see.
There we go.
So, how did we get here? What was, what happened, and what is? It began with a vision, and that vision came from our assistant superintendent and our GATE District Advisory Committee. At the time, I was not a part of that committee. I was a teacher in the classroom. So, they really talked about the importance of vision. You've got to think about big things while we do small things, so our small things will go in the right direction. And at the time, we weren't doing really much of anything to meet the needs of our advanced learners. So this was really important, and an important vision of the team. So they looked at other school district visions. They looked at Fairfield, assures opportunities for every student to learn and meet the challenges of the future. Responsive and challenging education for every student. All students college and career ready by the time they graduate from high school. San Francisco, each student, intellectual growth, creativity, self-discipline. Each student can achieve his or her maximum potential. So what do these visions all share? Each student, all learners, and every type. So we looked at our own vision. I feel like it's saying we because I'm a part of that team now, but it was really the District Advisory Committee all working together on this. They looked at ours, transforming lives by instilling 21st century skills and inspiring lifelong learning in every student. So, in a district of almost 18,000 students, all needs all. But we weren't doing a very good job of that. So, determine that the thing can and shall be done, and then we shall find a way. And they were committed. They said, we've got to figure this out. This is, we're focusing on our most striving students, we're making progress, but we're not doing very much for our advanced students. So, our assistant superintendent said, we want you to imagine, we want you to dream, we want you to budget, and we want you to rank items. What is the most important to you? And I should say that District Advisory Committee was composed of administrators, teachers, and parents. So it was a big group, this committee, that worked together to just kind of say, what is it? What are these hopes and dreams that we have? So what they said was, they wanted a teacher on special assignment. At the time, it was an extra duty of a principal to do things. So you can imagine how much attention it got as an extra duty for a principal. Principals are pretty darn busy, so. They wanted us to have provide professional learning and GATE certification. They wanted us to train and support in differentiation for all teachers. And they wanted timely communication to GATE parents, teachers, and administrators. We were not doing a very good job at that either. So, this is all happening. I'm happily teaching in my classroom, thinking about that straight grade the next year, and the phone rings, and it's my assistant superintendent, Elena Toscano, who says to me, hello, she doesn't know me very well, this is Elena Toscano, and gate TOSA, and you come highly recommended. I was wondering if you would like to take that position. And I said, first of all, I didn't even know what a TOSA was. I had to look it up because I didn't know the whole idea of a teacher on special assignment. That was new to me. And GATE, the schools that I had worked at for the last 17 years were Title I schools. So I felt like my expertise was in teaching our English learners and our most striving students. And I had lots of GATE students in my class and advanced learners, but I didn't feel like I was an expert in that area by any means. And so I said, surely you have someone who would be more qualified for the position than me. And she said, Dana, this is going to come with a year-long GATE certification training. And she said, think about this. You're going to learn how to meet the needs of all students. You're going to have strategies to meet the needs of all learners. And you can feel it in me, like as I'm trying to tell you this story, is, you know, that feeling in the pit of your stomach of fear, and you feel sick to your stomach, and you think, oh my gosh, this is so much bigger than me. I don't know if I'm really meant to take this on. And that's what drove me. I said, you know what? Everything happens for a reason. She's calling me for a reason. I meant to learn this information, and I said, okay, I'm going to do it. So learn everything you can, anytime you can, from anyone you can. And I can learn from everyone. And it's just been this tremendous opportunity that I'm so thankful to my school district for, because they picked me to work with all of these teachers, and I'll tell you more. So the journey begins. A year-long GATE certification training with Dr. Susan Daniels. She's the author of Living with Intensity. Anyone familiar with that book? It's a great book. And she was one of our trainers, as well as Sandy Simpson from San Bernardino. And they came to work with us. There were 25 teachers of us in the cadre, and we met once a month for the entire weekend and embarked on this year-long training. And during that time, we got to meet. There were teachers from all the different school sites. We came together to talk about what was happening, what was not happening at our sites, what could we do to help support all of the students at our school sites. And we also had time with the trainers to say, okay, let's think outside the box. What can we do? And it was just a really important time, I felt like, bringing us together and kind of thinking about the needs of the whole district. So at that same time, we held an open house. At this time I had taken the position. I held an open house, and we had lots of parents that were very upset. I mean, we really were not offering anything of much value, and kids weren't being served. So we said, okay, let's meet and let's talk about our hopes and dreams, because we can pick lots of things that are going wrong, but what are our hopes and dreams, and what can we do to make it better? And so we met. It was about 100 people came, and we met. We had table groups. We had facilitators at each group who just wrote down ideas, and then we compiled the lists and came up with the 4 top must-dos. So no more lottery losers. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. Get resources to the classrooms. They didn't feel like they had any resources to meet the needs of these advanced learners. More communication and standardized offerings, because it was very confusing. What do we do in kindergarten through 5th grade? Then it's different in 6th through 8th grade. And then 9th through 12th grade, different again. And then, oh my gosh, you go to a different school and it's different at that school. So it was just, our communication wasn't great, and it was a little bit of a mess. So we went to the GATE Education Code, and we looked at that to see, okay, what is it that the code says for us to do? It says, develop unique educational opportunities for high-achieving and underachieving pupils who have been identified as gifted and talented. It also talks about making sure that students from economically disadvantaged populations and backgrounds would also have the opportunity. And the big one was that it was within the school day. So we looked at what we were doing, and it wasn't very much. So in pre-2009, 4th and 5th graders, if they qualified, they'd get to go to these after-school academies. And the academies were enrichment and fun, but once you got in, there wasn't a lot of space. So we turned students away. So you can imagine the irritation of parents. Okay, my student's qualified, now you've turned my child away. So that was not good. And 6th through 8th grade, the opportunities varied, and that we had some advanced classes, accelerated classes at some sites and not at others. And they were open to all. And 9th through 12th, we had AP and honors, which were open to all through CST testing. So, and I thought about looking at one of my English learners in my class or one of my most striving students and saying to them, oh sweetie, I know you don't understand a word that I'm saying, but don't worry, you're gonna get to go to a really cool after-school academy. That sounds ridiculous, right? Having a child sit in class all day and not understand anything. Just like it sounds so ridiculous to have an advanced learner in the class and say, you know everything I'm teaching today, but just sit and hang out, because guess what? You're gonna get to go to a really cool after-school class. So, that sounds ridiculous too. And then just the whole idea for us was, it was enrichment, and isn't enrichment great for all students? You know, when we find our passion and we share it with others, we make the world a better place. And some of us find it in the classroom, and some of us find it in the arts, and some of us find it out in the field, when, you know, or track, or sports, or whatever. And that's not GATE. That's not accelerated learning. That's enrichment. So that needs to be for all students, but what do we need to do to address the needs of our advanced learners within the school day? So we went back to our district vision, which was, we said, any student that needs intervention and support should have it if their needs are not met. That's what we said. And we said every student should get what every student needs and keep moving forward. So how are we going to make that happen was the big question. So I kept thinking about it, and I kept thinking about No Child Left Behind, and what were we doing for our most striving students to help get them to grade level. And I kept thinking about, I know that as a classroom teacher, I can meet a large amount of my students' needs, about 85% of them. But I had outliers at either end that I would need to think outside the box to support them and move them forward. I know as a classroom teacher too, I would have loved to have somebody come in and give me support and give me materials to help meet the needs of those students too. But it was really important to think about those kiddos at either end and how we do need to be flexible, and we need to think outside the box about how to meet their needs. And I started having all these students come to mind, and one in particular, and I was singing, "Fat families are made up of 3 numbers, Big Daddy number, oh yeah, 2 baby numbers, wham wham." And in the back of my first grade room, 6 years old, raises his hand. "Mrs. Coe, aren't there negative numbers in a fat family?" I said, "Yes, there are." Okay. That's a student I had to think outside the box for. You can imagine, and some of your kids may be this way, but first grade, a lot of the other first graders were ready for negative numbers. So I had to figure out how was I going to meet his needs and give him opportunities to keep moving forward. And we were able to do that for him. And actually he's in 11th grade now. He has a 4.8 GPA and has learned Mandarin Chinese and is just doing amazingly well. And it took some finagling. We actually ended up doing some subject level accelerations and eventually a grade level acceleration for him, which was appropriate for that particular student. So we had to think outside the box for him. So I kept thinking about what are we doing for those striving students, and it's response to intervention. So response to intervention, is anyone familiar with that term? Okay, so response to intervention is kind of this idea that it was really thought of at first for striving learners. so a student who wasn't meeting grade level standards, you would try out and give the student some resources, see if it made a difference and if the student moved forward. And if they didn't, you'd meet as a team and figure out what were you going to do next. So, wasn't that the same thing that we should do for all of our outliers? If we have students whose needs aren't being met, we should come together, figure it out as a team. And when I say team, I say the teacher, the parent, and usually an administrator or somebody who's your student success team. You've heard that term before. So somebody who's a part of your team who's going to help the student be successful. And so I kept thinking, you know, why aren't advanced learners in this RTI model? I've never really heard that happening before. And again, this was 4 years ago. So it was really new. And I started searching and reading everything that I could. And thought, you know, it's got to be out there somewhere. And lo and behold, the Georgia Department of Education already had this system in place. And they actually looked at the model of the RTI pyramid, which is, it kind of shows how we can meet the needs of most of our learners in the middle, about 85%, and how we'll have outliers at either end that we need to think outside the box and meet their needs. And they had this beautiful graphic that showed that differentiated instruction, giving opportunities for extended learning, it was all a part of the pyramid. And I thought, that's it. You know, we have to have a unified way that we look at all of our students. They're all of our students, every single one of them that come to us. And we're here to educate them all. And we're here to move every single one of them forward. So we started asking some questions. Could this framework be used to look at all learners? Could we include our advanced learners in our RTI model to catch all students? Could RTI also be used to help identify our twice exceptional students? Twice exceptional, so students that are gifted but also have learning difficulties. Doesn't it make sense to look at all of our learners through a unified lens? It prompted me to go knock on the director of Intervention's door and said, hey, have you ever seen this before? And I showed her the double pyramid, which is that whole idea. And I said, you know, has anyone ever talked about putting advanced learners in this framework? And she said, wow. And it started a conversation within cabinet, and it started to become, wow, maybe we need to think differently about how we are using this response to intervention model. So, in order to kind of look at who are these outliers, there's some testing involved. And before I became a part of the program, they had decided that the cognitive abilities test was the test that they were going to use to identify for giftedness. So we were blanket testing all of our third graders across the district. We did that for 3 years, and we were looking to see what was the data telling us. And it was doing a great job of picking up a lot of our advanced learning outliers, but it wasn't doing a very great job of identifying our Latino students. So this year, our big focus has been to think outside the box and go to the research to find out how can we equitably identify our Latino students, which comprise about half of our population in Napa Valley Unified. So we actually developed criteria, which you can see on our website, that's based on Jay Cummins' research of language acquisition. And we have redesignated fluent English proficient students, limited English proficient students, and then our native English speakers. And so we have criteria that takes into account language acquisition. And it's that idea of it takes between 5 to 7 years to become academically proficient in another language. So we use that to help us with our criteria. And I would invite you to go to the website and click on our identification page, which I'll show you at the end if you're more interested in that. And I could come talk with you about that another time, so that's another talk. So this has enabled us, so identifying these outliers, because I should go back that we, again, weren't doing very much for our advanced learners, and we didn't really have a great testing procedure in place. We used CST scores in the Naglieri, is what we had used previously. And then the cognitive abilities test we used, and now we've added in some other multiple measures. But this enabled us to raise awareness of our advanced outliers at each school site. It identified twice exceptional students, not all of them, but some of them, by showing a discrepancy between scores. And it really started to encourage a discussion at the school site about, wow, what are we going to do for these advanced outliers? Just like what are we going to do for our most striving students at our site as well. So it kind of, I guess what it did is it started to create a common language where we just started talking about all means all. And we looked at, wow, this seems to be working really great for this group of students, but boy, can we do more for these kids here that need to move forward? And the same with our striving students. So it was really empowering to feel like we were all talking a similar language, and that we weren't picking one type of learner over another learner. It was just about kids, and it's just about moving all kids forward. That's what it's about. So the research. I've done a lot of reading, and I've listed some of my books in the back, not my books, but books that I've read. But three authors, three with the most recent publications, Yang Zhao, Linda Darling-Hammond, Malcolm Gladwell from Outliers. They have research to support that there's many factors that contribute to the achievement gap, but resource and opportunity gaps found within our system, we should take a look at them and see what we can do about them. They encourage us to do that. And so I would encourage you to take a look at those, because I think that they have a lot of wonderful information, and it just talks about, gosh, these resources and opportunities are great for all students. And I should have said when we were back at the slide about the GATE certification training, when I sat in that training and I was sitting with those teachers and I got to see these gifted best practices strategies, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, these strategies are great for all kids. And it's such a bummer in education. We say this strategy is good for this kind of student. This strategy is good for this type of student. This strategy is good for this type of student. But really, good strategies, best practices, are good for all of our students. And so if we look at it as getting a toolbox of strategies that can help move all of our students forward, oh my goodness, how amazing. So it's led to our mission, which is that all means all. And we're here to not only move our advanced learners forward, but to have a mission that says everyone needs to move forward, and there's actually research to support that. Vygotsky's zone of proximal development says that we don't want to go too far above a student's head, that they cower and they say, oh, that's too difficult. We don't want it to be too easy, that they say, oh, life is so easy, I get to sail into the comfort inn. We have to always be raising the bar one level above their readiness, and keep raising it for all of our students, no matter where they are. And so it's looking at resources that we have within the district, it's looking at resources that we have within the school site, and looking at resources that we have within our community, and accessing those and getting them to our students, because it creates opportunities for us all. So where are we now? We have the top 10, which we decided to redefine our GATE as ALPS, Advanced Learner Programs and Services. Sandy Simpson from San Bernardino actually she named her GATE group that years ago, and I said, that's it. I really love that name because it really makes me think about the zone of proximal development. It makes me think about we say all students need to learn their grade level standards, but once they do, once they learn them, now what, right? So that means we need to give resources to help the students continue to move forward. So I thought that really helped to kind of define it better. Gifted and talented sometimes gets a little, people don't really, know how to define it well. So that's really helped us in our program. No more lottery losers. So getting resources to the classroom, identifying resources that are really good for all students, and any student that shows a need should have access. Improved communication. This has been huge. We actually have a paid ALPS liaison or representative at each school. They get a very small stipend, but they're at their school site and they come to meet with me once a month, and we have golden nugget trainings of great strategies that they then bring back to their school site. They also have a log, so they let me know about any student success teams that are, any advanced learners that might need extra support or an individualized plan, and then they bring that back to me. They also bring back any site concerns or any needs that the site may have that I can go out and provide support. We have a triannual newsletter, our back to school night, and then the big one that we focused on, we had our second annual open house and resource sharing fair, where students actually came and brought projects that they're working on in the classroom that have to do with our ALPS program. We have students who are writing novels through the Napa Valley Writing Project. They come and show off their novels. And we also have all the community enrichment within the community. They come and share what they have to offer our students as well. So this year we had over 500 parents, teachers, and students come to the event, and it was just a beautiful night celebrating learning and celebrating the resources within our community. And it was an incredible coming together. Training for parents on the achievement gap and how to accelerate learning for all. Out of this, organically came, wow, we're identifying all these great resources to move all of our advanced learners forward. Oh my gosh, these are really great resources for all students, especially how could we help parents who didn't know how to support their kids at home. So I've done parent trainings where I introduce parents to some different online resources, and we talk about the idea of the achievement gap and how you can accelerate learning and what you have to do in order to make those large gains. So that's just kind of organically happened through this process. And then something that we've really worked on is our website for teachers and parents and administrators. And so there's a teacher resource page. So we try to put together done resources for teachers that they can pull right off, choice boards. And we also have all of the websites that we have found that can keep students moving forward. So it's just, we started filling it with information, and then part of that goes my nugget trainings. I share that information with the teachers, and then they can share it with the school site. So it's all about that layering of communication, and I thought it was difficult doing communication at just a school site, and trying to have all the teachers on board, and and going to the district level. Wow, the game of telephone. You can only imagine, you say one thing and it kind of changes and changes. And so I would say another part of our reps and what's important is I always say, if there's anything negative or if you hear someone who's worried, have them call me. Let them know I'm here, and there's not some weird mean lady at the district office who's, taking away or giving, just sometimes we get these thoughts in our head of these people that we don't see very often. And it's really helped to make people feel comfortable. They can come to us and we can help make sure the communication is consistent and people know what the mission is. So where are we now? We have the K through 12 student success team support. So it's actually been added to our district process. It was the coolest thing to be in the auditorium when they announced the new student success team process, and they said, and ALPS has been added to the student success team process. And I'm like, wow, wow, it was really wonderful and brilliant. I thought, gosh, we're really talking about all our kids. And I'm able to go out and create individualized plans for students. And we didn't have an acceleration process in place. So as I was going out and seeing all these kids, K-12 across the district, we didn't really have a process in place. So we've developed a process for that now. And while acceleration, we don't accelerate lots of students, it is appropriate for some students. And so we have that. So another resource that we've been using is Wenzuli Learning for project-based learning. And all of our identified 4th and 5th graders receive a license. And then we also provide some additional licenses to each site for students who don't qualify through testing, but show they have advanced learning needs. And then we also encourage the parent clubs and the school site to kick in for extra licenses if needed, so that any student who needs that resource can have it. Eventually, we may move to using Google Docs and creating the projects on Google Docs because there isn't a fee involved. And then we can, and then any student can have access that needs access, and there isn't a cost involved. But right now, this has been working for us, and people have been very happy with it. We also have another differentiation coach 1 day a week. We spread her hours over the week, and she's able to go help teachers develop choice boards. She also can assist them with their projects or getting projects started. We also work with a person at each site who helps the kids stay on track with projects. We work to identify what resources we have within our core materials. So core is the adopted materials. What's in those that are good for advanced learners, and we try to identify those. And then I put links to them on our site. So on the teacher resource page, we're using Treasures and Holt for our elementary and Holt for language arts for middle school. So we've worked to put those resources there. Some of the schools are still using Hope Mifflin, so there's some resources on there for that adoption as well. A big thing, and I know not everyone has technology in their classrooms, but gosh, the opportunities are it's going to be amazing once all the technology is there, because with Khan Academy and SumDog, those types of programs, you can get free accounts, and once your child has an account, they can keep moving forward, and it's free. So the other thing that's important to note is that many programs now are many of the technology programs are starting to embed assessments within, so as you level up, you're assessed and you get to move to the next level. So we have a program, you guys have ST Math here, it's GG Math, it's a nonverbal mathematic program. That's something that we have in the district, that the district pays for. And it's just a nonverbal, it's great for students with nonverbal, high nonverbal abilities. But we give it to all students because it's great in developing all student skills. But it's a really great resource for those students as well. So system strategies, visual thinking strategies, project-based learning, AP honors, cluster grouping, depth and complexity. I wanted to talk about this because you might be hearing Common Core is coming, which is going to be really quite nice. I think that people are going to really like that. And it goes so beautifully if you know Sandra Kaplan's icons, the depth and complexity icons. That's a gifted best practice strategy, is her icons, and they're fantastic. They go really beautifully with Common Core, because Common Core is based upon Webb's depth of knowledge. So if you look up Webb's depth of knowledge and you look at the icons, they go really nicely, and it's all taking kids deeper instead of just skimming the surface. So that's something nice. The pendulum's swinging, and it's coming back. So that's coming your way. Community, because it's been tough. The budget's been tough. I don't know if the budget's been tough for you guys. Sure tough in Napa. We had 7 furlough days, And we don't have much of a budget, but it's amazing what we can do when we collaborate. So our Ed Foundation gave us a grant that helped us start the Napa Valley Writing Project, which is just the opportunity for students to write novels and publish them. And then we have book signings at Copperfields. So, you know, any student in the district, actually 4th and up, can participate in the project. We pay for the materials to get them started, and then the parents just purchase the book once they publish a book. And then we have events where they come and share their book with the community. It also works out as a choice board option. So let's say the student finishes early, shows proficiency through pre-test, they're ready to move on. I can work on my novel. That can be one of the choices. And I think, I always say that there's not one resource that's the end-all be-all for all kids, all students. So you need to find what drives them, what's exciting to them. And you can provide some really wonderful opportunities that they can be moving forward in this, you know, within the school day while other kids are getting their needs met as well. Johns Hopkins, we invite them to come because we were finding that kids, families that were interested in Johns Hopkins, there was a barrier in getting the students to the testing areas. They actually come once a year to the district office, and we provide testing if parents want, or if their children want testing. And we, you know, had 95 students tested, 45 qualified, and that's an option for some families. We also had an anonymous donor through Johns Hopkins, so any one of the students who applied for financial aid received financial aid. So we don't even know who this anonymous donor is, but we just say thank you, thank you. And again, no resource is the end-all be-all for all kids, but this is something that some families really love. Napa Valley TV has helped us with the social emotional DVDs. Dr. Dan Peters has just been amazing to us in helping us know about the social emotional needs of gifted students. He's also helped us with dealing with anxiety. And so he actually did 2 talks that we have put into DVDs that we've brought to all of the school sites across the district, and we have links to them on our website as well. He talks about the worry monster and getting tools in our toolbox to overcome worry, and I have a lot of worry, and I've had a lot of worry in my life, and it's really helped me too with my son and helping him get over obstacles. I always say when we have tools in our toolbox, we move forward, and those are very helpful. So Somos Napa is a parent networking. Actually, Debbie Alter-Starr was one of the parents that led the charge, who was saying, you know, we're not doing anything for our advanced learners. So it was really actually because of Debbie that, you know, the district advisory, well, I mean, it was the group coming together, but they all came together and decided on having a teacher on special assignment, and she was one of the people who led that charge. And she's made her own parent networking website. That's wonderful for our families. Summit Center is Dr. Dan Peters, and he also does an Ask Dr. Dan column in our triannual newsletter, so parents can ask questions and Dr. Dan answers. So I brought a newsletter, and you can see his latest there. Surfer Math is a teacher in our school district, also owns Surfer Math. So he offers Lego robotics and all of these cool enrichment math-based opportunities through his private company called Surfer Math. But we also worked with him this year and worked with the Napa County Office of Ed to give us the Math Leaps program. And so we just started this year a middle school Math Leaps program for our 6th and 8th grade students, and then they came together at the end of their class, at the end of the 6 weeks, and we had a competition of all the middle schools against each other, and it was very exciting. I think there were 100 people in this room, and I said it was like a sporting event for math. I mean, these kids were it was just tremendous. Everyone was so excited.
How was the anxiety?
You know, it was so funny, because it's a good, you know, I think that these particular students that came just couldn't believe there was an event for them. There was an event where they could show what they did well, you know, and they just wanted to actually, to tell you the truth, they just really wanted to show off what they could do. And we had them work individually quiet. It wasn't like Jeopardy, where they had to get up in front of a group. They worked and did an individual testing, and then they worked in groups. So, and then they had their coach, you know, their athletes coach, so they felt pretty good. And Sylvan's been really great to us. They actually heard about our program, and the director came to me and said, hey, I really like this idea of your ALPS program. We want to start doing some enrichment that might, you know, connect with your program. And I said, wow, we always like to highlight different things that are within the community for enrichment. Yes, and then she's also, the director has also helped us. They have something called Book Adventure, which is kind of like Accelerated Reader, and not that Accelerated Reader is that great, but it's an incentive to read. And you get tokens and virtual tokens and things. So what you do is you read the book, you check it out at the library, you go onto the site, you take a quiz, and you get these tokens, and it rewards you for your reading. So at our middle schools, we have something called Accelerated Reader that the district pays for, but our elementary schools don't have it. So Sylvan has introduced us to this book adventure, and they actually have come to sites that want to, and they'll set them up with accounts, and they're free. And so that's been a nice partnership. And then Napa County Office of Ed wrote a grant, an after-school grant, and so that's the mathletes came out of that grant, and it doesn't cover American Canyon. So then ALPS, our budget, paid for the American Canyon teacher. So we were able to provide a lot with a little. So the DVDs, that's been big. This year, our big focus was on the equitable identification, and that's a link that will take you to that page, our identification page. And I think really the biggest part has just been the overall awareness that all of these students are ours, and they're in all of our classrooms. And I never talked about, I got such a rough start at the beginning, I didn't talk to you about the profiles of gifted students. And when we got the training with Dr. Susan Daniels, one of the very first activities we did were the profiles of gifted students. And when I saw these profiles, I said, these are all my kids. So I think you have the PowerPoint on it, but it talks about the successful student. It talks about the divergent kiddo. I call him the oppositer. You know, what are we going to do to help that student move forward? It talks about students that might be at risk for dropping out. It talks about our twice exceptional students. It talks about all of our kids. And I just can't say how much I'm so thankful to our district for giving me this opportunity. And I just want to keep spreading, raising the bar, and meeting it, and raising it again, and keep moving forward. And it's really because of a team effort in our district, from the Napa County Office of Ed and NBUSD providing the GATE certification training to us, that this was made possible. Sandy Simpson for allowing us to redefine our program from GATE to ALPS. Dr. Dan Peters for giving us countless hours of free consultations. He writes for our newsletter and donates that to us. And he's done the DVDs for us as well. The Georgia Department of Education for being the first time I had ever seen the response to intervention model. And Tamara Fisher, didn't know her either, loved to see that double-sided pyramid. And this year at English Learner Services has been fabulous. It's also made all these connections. It's like we work in silos sometimes, you know, there's this department and this department and this department, and it's been this beautiful thing. You know, I'm a little bit a part of HR, Human Resources, I'm a little bit a part of English Services, I'm a part of Curriculum and Instruction, I'm a part of Special Ed, and we all are coming together and learning about what each other does, so we can better meet the needs of all of our kids. And these are some of the reads that I found particularly helpful last day. So,
question on their the 3x5 card. They could pass it up to the front, and well, would you like to read those or?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, for me. Do you want to read it? In the context of proximal development, now is peer-to-peer interaction. How is peer-to-peer interaction achieved for the advanced learner? Is there project-based learning within peer groups? Well, that's a good question. So some of our schools, we're moving to project-based learning district-wide, and so some schools are really project-based learning schools, and they have rubrics involved, and they've really started to master that art of collaboration. We're working on the 4 C's: communication, collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and 4 C's. Help me.
Communication, critical thinking, collaboration,
yes, and critical thinking. I didn't have critical thinking.
I think you said that.
I did.
You had them.
Okay. So yeah, so the 4 C's. Anyway, so we have some school sites that are really entrenched in project-based learning. We have other schools that are dabbling in project-based learning. Renzulli learning is meant to be they can either work in groups or they can work individually. Then they come together at our project sharing events, and that's where they meet and show each other what they've done. So that's what we have in place so far. What percentage of students? About the top 10% have been identified in our district. But we say that we have more than that, advanced learners, right? And every student should have access that needs access. So if a student shows that they have proficiency of a standard, then they should be given opportunities to move forward. So whether or not they're identified. And there's the only thing that we have, Renzulli learning is the only thing that we have that we've given as a part of qualification. However, we give extra licenses for students who also show a need. Everything else is open to all students. And what is a choice board? A choice board is a menu. Weinstein and Brenner, they were probably one of the first ones to come up with a choice board, but basically it's options. You work with the student to find out what really drives them, and then you pick from a variety of resources, and when they're finished early, if they finish early or if they show pre-testing they don't need that lesson, they can go to their choice board of options. And then with it comes a little agreement that you sign with the teacher and a log for them to report out on what they've done. We have examples of that on our website. Oh, this is our 4th year. What year did we start this? This is our 4th year. So we're in our 4th year right now. And we didn't start with much of anything. So this is what we've accomplished in the 4 years. And just so you know, I think it's good to know too, I'm not full-time. I also have 90 new teachers in BITSA. So I oversee 90 new teachers in BITSA, which is the beginning teacher support and assessment, and lead those trainings. And then I also am the ALPS, teacher on special assignment. Okay, how many students in class? Oh yeah, so it's a bummer. It says how many students do we have in class? Because of the budget cuts, we don't have the 20 in a K-3 classroom anymore. So we're up to 24, well, it's really more like 28 students in elementary, and we're at 36 in the middle school classroom. So I don't know how it is here. You guys see it? Yeah, there's a lot. My husband teaches middle school, and he has 36 in all of his classes. Did all teachers get best practice training? The cadre of 25 got it, and then we did the ALPS, so I've got the liaisons, and then we do the monthly trainings, and then they bring that information back, and we're due to do another training. But we haven't had another full certification training since that first year, so 3 years ago. Do we balance the number of ALPS students in each class or school, or does everyone go to the neighborhood school? Everyone goes, well, there's a neighborhood school and you can open enroll to different schools, but there isn't one that's like a gate school. They're just all heterogeneous schools. And then some of the schools do the cluster grouping. You've heard of cluster grouping before. So it's just to lessen as teachers, we have so many kids, so many needs, so it lessens the amount of differentiation that you need to do when you cluster group. Oh. How can one teacher create lesson plans when 15% outliers, some at the bottom and some? So it's really great in our district for our, I'm not reading the questions very well, am I? For our students who are striving learners, we have a program called System 44 and Read 180 for language arts that's been really helpful about moving students forward. It's a technology-based system. We're going to add in iReads next year, which is just a really wonderful program too. That's actually meant for all students, and then hopefully when they all get that instruction, they can then not go to System 44 and Read 180. But right now we have System 44 and Read 180. They're scholastic-based programs. I don't know if you have that here. And what I like about it is that students move at their own pace through the program, and you can fast track through different levels, and it's been really successful for us. So that's really been helpful with our striving students. And then for our advanced students, we have the Renzulli learning project, so students can go and get their project that they work on, and they can pick, am I going to work on my project, am I going to work on my novel? And then it depends on the technology, and it's different at each site what technology is available.
There's one more question on the end of this. Can I make it?
Sure.
Isn't there some benefit to ALP students to be in same class together, collaborate at a more intense advanced level?
Through cluster grouping, or, I mean, yes, I think that.
Or just self-contained, maybe like what we have here.
Oh, sorry, ask that question again. Isn't there some benefit to ALP students to be in the same classroom together so they can collaborate at a more intense and advanced level? You know, we've never had a completely separate program before, so I can't completely speak to that. Although I'm just going to say that this awareness has raised the caliber and the rigor for all of our students across the district. So, you know, and I think providing opportunities where the students can get together when we have our resource sharing events, we get families together. It's a wonderful time for kids to get together. And, you know, we give opportunities for our kids to get together. But can you detail a bit more about Jay Cummins' criteria? It's about the 5 to 7 years before you gain academic proficiency in another language. Jay Cummins' research talks about that. And so when we look at our identification, we need to look at our different students who have been redesignated, which it's quite deceiving. They're called redesignated fluent English proficient students, I think based upon No Child Left Behind criteria. And it sounds like, wow, they're fluent, but they can talk fluently, but academically, they're not at the same level as a native English speaker. So the criteria has to be a bit different for those students. And then we have limited English proficient students. So it would be just like if I went to China, I could maybe pass the cognitive abilities test here, because English is my first language, but if I went to China and I tried to take the cognitive abilities test, I don't think I'd be able to show what I know. So it's that. So we base it on that research. And I would encourage you to go to the website. You can see, we also work with the teacher. So we look at some data points, and then we inquire with the teacher, and we have, it's new this year. We just put it in place. So it's all there for you to look at. So I don't have my numbers with me. It says what percentage of your gate identified are Latino. So it needs to be, if you're identifying the top 10%, you want it to be equitable to your when you look at your subgroupings. So now we match that, and I don't have the exact numbers for you. If you emailed it to me, I could send you the exact spreadsheet with numbers, but we made sure that we looked at that closely. Low socioeconomic. So again, we looked at all of those subgroups when we were working on our equitable identification, and I don't have the spreadsheet here with the exact percentages, but I can get that information for you. Will somebody email it to me or send that home with me? Oh, thanks. Congratulations on building this program. Thank you. And how does your experience relate to Davis? We have an all-day self-contained gate program for 128 kids with a very small wait list. These kids mostly scored the 98th and 99th percentile on the OLSAT. The top 2% nationally and eligible for Mensa. In Napa, you may not have the numbers to fill a self-contained class, but in Davis, we can fill 4th, 5th, and 6th grades. Research shows that these outlier kids can best be met in a self-contained program. Can you show your gifted students' needs are better met in your model compared to ours? Like I said, we never had a self-contained classroom. We weren't providing anything, much of anything before. I think that I'll just look at my own teaching experience. I had all the kids in my class, and I moved all my kids forward. And I think a lot of it, depends on the training of the teacher and their ability to differentiate and their belief in kids. And that there's not one type of student that we favor over another type of student. They're just kids, and they need to move forward, and they need to get tools in their toolbox so they can navigate life's challenges. There shouldn't be a kid in class who feels like, hey, I've got this all figured out. I get to just check out and sail into the comfort inn, or sit there with lots of anxiety and their needs not be addressed. So my belief is just in kids, and it's making sure that that's what you hopefully go into teaching for. How much training do your teachers get? So our teachers get lots of different training, and then there's trainings going on all the time, but in terms of differentiation, we had our big differentiation training, then we talk about differentiation within each training. So whether or not the teachers are engaging in GLAD training, or the teachers are engaging in Common Core training, which right now that's what our big push is Common Core. So it's worked out really beautifully because we can talk about Webb's depth of knowledge, and we can talk about Sandra Kaplan's icons, and talk about how we can use those to keep our students moving forward. And then a lot of it comes from our monthly meetings, which creates a conversation, because then the teachers have to share it at the school site. And so then those strategies are shared through the teacher representative. So there's always discussion about, what can we do to meet those advanced learners. I think a lot of that has to do with having that communication with the ALPS liaison. But like I said, it'll be good to get another gate certification training going as well. What is the cost? Oh, the cost of teacher training. If I could get you that information. It was expensive. Napa County Office of Ed and Napa Valley Unified worked together. I believe Napa County Office of Ed provided some food, and Napa Valley Unified provided some money for the training. And I don't know, the funding for GATE was swept into the general fund, so there's not like secured GATE funds anymore. So, but they actually give us a budget in our program, and so there was some money out of our budget too that they contributed towards the training. But they didn't contribute all the money in our budget, because that wouldn't have left us with money for the kids. So we've used different pots of money.
And they also ask, how much do aides in the classroom cost?
Oh, okay, so aides. So we don't, some of the schools have aides, but we don't have aides at all of our schools. Really most of our schools don't have aides. So there's some, I do know some sites do have some aides and they pay for it with some PTA money and things like that, but it's not a practice across the district where classrooms have aides. You know, we had aides in classrooms, and then we had the class size reduction, and we didn't have aides, and then now we have the class sizes back, and we don't have aides. It's just is what it is. It is what it is. Okay, so. Oh, this is another. Does anyone enforce differentiation? Monitor, evaluate student progress. So we spread the strategies, and we have the administrators on board, and we need to be having differentiation happen in the classroom. And you go into some classrooms, and there's lots of differentiation going on, and in others, we need to give more support to the teacher to help with differentiation, and that's where I can come in and help create things for students. So if it's not being provided by the classroom teacher, then I'm a part of that process of developing a choice board for the student and making sure that they have access to it. In education, and you probably know this, you don't always get to pick all the people on your team, and you don't. If a teacher's tenured, the teacher's there, and so you just want to set them up for success, and you want to give them whatever they need to help them support the students. And so really, it's just making sure that we set that if the teacher's overwhelmed and doesn't feel like they're able to do that, then we need to provide support. So that's what we do. We go out and provide support. Oh, opportunity gaps. You know, it says, what are the most common opportunity gaps that you found? Well, one of them was the invitations to our gate open houses, where we were sharing all these fabulous resources that were really great for all parents to know about. And we realized that with our Connect Ed message, the Connect Ed message was just going out to our identified students. And so we decided we're just going to invite everyone to our events, because also it's great with layering information, and people can see all of these great things they're doing, and it's going to help their kids. So then we have been having huge groups of people come, and sometimes I always say, when you have a resource gap or an opportunity gap, as a parent, sometimes parents don't even know what they're missing on until they see what it is. And so it's just providing opportunities where everyone's invited, and then they can see, hey, that's something that my child can use, or wow, I never thought of it that way. So it's just kind of opening it up and making sure that everyone has access. And then those that want it and need it can take it and run with it. So that's really what I see as it's just everyone having access. Renzulli learning. So I think somewhere it said we have the Renzulli School-Wide Enrichment Model. There's a great book that he put out called Renzulli, the School-Wide Enrichment Model. We've used the Renzulli Learning technology-based program that does a student profile, so it picks the student's strengths, because if we focus on our strengths, it helps us overcome our striving areas, is what I always say. And it also picks websites that students might be interested in and helps them research projects. And then you can do these super starter projects. So it was a tool, it's a tool to help teachers create the projects so that the teachers didn't feel so overwhelmed. Because again, we have all of our students in the classroom, so we wanted to be able to provide a tool so that it would make that easier for the teacher. And then that's when we hired Jeanette Bowlesley to go out and help, and she can go out and work individually with teachers. She sometimes goes out with kids that we've written individual plans for to help tailor resources for them. And we also have her go and talk to the staff. So like in an after-school setting, to tell them about the program and how to use the program. But what we try to do is take any worry or fear on behalf of the teacher. If they feel like, oh, this is too overwhelming for me, we're like, okay, we can make it happen for you. And we just get in there and help them out, your district seemed to transition from little gate service to service from within integrated classrooms. Our district would need to transition from separate to integrated. Any suggestions? You know, I think it's coming together, and it's talking about your hopes and dreams. It's talking about what's working, what's not working, and getting everyone to come to, I think what's working and not working, but always working towards that growth mindset, that solution-based, the hopes and dreams. You know, if it could be ideal, gosh, if all of our kids are in a classroom together, how can we make sure that our advanced students are really going to be moving? And, you know, how do I know that my striving student is still going to be moving? You know, so I think that it took us coming together, and then for me it was a lot of listening, and it was listening to what parents were saying, and what you know, you listen to your students, you listen to what the parents are saying, and then you're realizing that it's so important to convey a unified message, and it's important to make everyone feel a part of the team. Because really, we all just want the best for our kids. I mean, I think when it comes down to it, we just want the best for our kids, and we want them to have every opportunity to find success in life. So everyone's coming from the same perspective. I think they all want you all want what's best for your kids, and you all want to move them forward. So it's just coming together and figuring out how it's going to work best for you and your community. How did I get out of the lottery process? How did we get out of the How did you get out of the lottery process?
Research, if so what?
Oh, the lottery, so we don't even need a lottery now because our resources are available to any student who needs them. So there isn't an issue with lottery. We only had the lottery. It's a little bit different how our lottery worked. It was for the after-school enrichment classes. And that was another thing that was really cool, is once that wasn't our focus and we weren't providing just after-school enrichment, the school sites started bolstering their after-school enrichment. That was good for all kids, and so it was like, okay, that's great. Now everyone has more because of this. And then we could really use the money, the little money that we had, to focus on the resources within the classroom, which that was to me, you know, the after-school icing on the cake. And we'd love to have those opportunities for kids. But I just need to make sure that when they're sitting in their seat, that they are having the opportunity to learn and move forward. So and I think it's not just me, but I think we all feel the same way in our community.
Okay, so want to call that the last one? Or that you just got handed to?
Okay, what do you do in junior
Yes.
high school? Are you guaranteed something based on being out? So we still have accelerated language arts classes, and it's interesting. We have River, which is an alternative. It's a charter school, so that's a lottery system to get into that school, but it's more of a project-based learning school. And then we have Harvest, which next year will be an international baccalaureate, and then they have dual immersion there. So there's that system, and then Silverado is more of a traditional school, so they have accelerated language arts and accelerated math classes. Then they also have this block of time, which is kind of like this enrichment block, where either students can go for reteaching for a period of the day. It's like it's a period of the day. So they go to either to get a reteach, or they can go to an enrichment class. And those classes are just provided by the teachers, and like some of the teachers have chess club, or they have different types of things available for the students. All the middle schools are doing that now. One of our middle schools doesn't do accelerated classes. They do more just the differentiation within the whole class. So we're still not all schools are doing the same thing across all the middle schools. But it's the discussion's happening, and it's becoming a part of the conversation. So we still have work to do. If all opportunities will be available to all, why the need to identify gifted? I think the important part is about the outlier piece. So there's CST testing, which just tests you on the standards that you've learned that year. And then with the cognitive abilities test, it's kind of about your problem-solving ability. And so it does, not all kids who score high on the COGAT actually score really high on the CST. So I think it helps us identify some of our twice exceptional students, and it also helps us look at the kids that learn in less repetitions. And I think, I didn't say this, but I think this is really the huge thing. When a kid is in, and again, let's take the element of equity and some issues with identifying English learners, but let's just look at the COGAT test. And if you look at someone who's traditionally in 97th to the 199th percentile, they often learn in less repetitions. So most of us need, maybe not you all, but I need more repetitions. So 10 repetitions or 15 repetitions. And some of our students learn in 1. They have photographic memory, or they learn in 2 repetitions. So they got it the first time or second time, and they need to move forward. But a lot of our research says, you want to spiral. You want to keep going back over those concepts.
So how do you combine that together? That kid that learns like this with kids that don't, how are they going to mix in one classroom?
Yeah, so that's where we have some choice board of options. So some of them can go on the computer, and they can go on Khan Academy, or they might work on their novel, or they might work on their Renzulli project, and they can work on that and go forward while the other students are doing their projects. So I think that you'll find even in more homogeneous classes, you still have to do a lot of differentiating. So even if all the kids are in the 97th to 99th percentile, they still are really different. And they still have really different needs. Some of them, you can look at the profiles. I think when you look at the profiles and you've got your divergent kiddo, your kid who's always questioning, who's an oppositor, who's having a really hard time in that social setting. And then you have, some students who have anxiety and they're crying, or there's all different. I think that even if we took it and we said, okay, we're going to just educate all the kids here in the 97th to 99th percentile, you're still going to find these mystery boxes and a lot of differentiation that has to happen. That's what I've noticed. I don't know if that's what you've noticed, but that's what I've noticed. Okay. What about differentiation for the varied learning style? Yeah, isn't it true? So Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences, and that's where I come up with that. When you find your passion and you share it with others, you make the world a better place. It's because what does make our soul sing? And I feel like with kids, that's what we have to help them find. Some of them are lucky and they find it in math, or they find it in science, or they find it in language arts in school, and they love it, and it drives them, and they're excited about it. And other kids, we have to dig a little deeper, and we have to provide them with opportunities. Even if the school can't provide all those opportunities through enrichment and through other experiences, to find out, hey, this is what I was born to do. And so that's all about the learning styles, and that's a part of our mission, is making sure that we teach the multiple learning styles of our students. How often do students work in the Renzulli groups? What grade levels participate? Okay, so they usually get instructed once a week. They'll get pulled out to just learn about their project, and then they can work on their project within their classroom when they finish work early. And sometimes they do some work at home too on their projects, so they work on them throughout the weeks. You use the computers. So it depends on the school. Some schools have a computer lab. Some schools have some computers within the classroom. That's, hopefully as we get more computers in the classroom, all the classrooms will have them, but some schools still have just computer labs. I don't know how it is with you guys, but. It's not Renzulli software. It's, you get a license and it's just internet-based. And it's we identify in 3rd grade and they receive licenses in 4th and 5th grade. We found that at middle school, they haven't been, we have some middle schools that are using the licenses, but we have one school that's already a project-based learning school, so they don't need the licenses. Then we have Silverado, which uses the licenses, but then they also have the accelerated classes. So, and then they use the choice boards. And the Napa Valley Writing Project, so some of them are writing novels as well. But I think at elementary school we found 4th and 5th grade. Sometimes they'll put 3rd graders in there in the classes. We don't identify kindergarten through 2nd graders, but we can through the SST process. And sometimes we don't even have to do an identification. It's just all about going out there and providing the teacher with additional resources. So we do provide that for our kindergarten through 2nd grade students on an as-needed basis. And there are quite a few. I mean, they come out that way, right? We don't identify them until 3rd grade, but there's often kids in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade who need that support as well. So we try to do the best job we can in providing that. What is parent networking? Oh, we are. Debbie Alter-Starr, she started a parent networking program, and it's called Somos Napa, and so she has that network that you can go on and talk with other parents. We have so far, what we have is our big open house, our resource sharing fair where parents can network, and our back to school night where parents can network, but we don't have a formal networking of parents yet. But it would be a great thing to add. I think too, when the parents network, it helps to even provide more resources. So I'm all for that. Does your district allow private testing for identification? We don't really accept. I do. And we do if a report comes through. I know we work with Dr. Dan Peters too, and sometimes with our twice exceptional students and students who have difficulty in a testing situation and they need to be tested. Then we look at that on a case-by-case basis. But for the most part, we just use our COGAT testing, and then I can go out individually COGAT test a student. I have an assistant, Kelly Cliff, who also is able to go out and administer. And then we've trained some of our liaisons too.
What's your cutoff for the test?
It's about the 90th. We do the top 10%, so 90th percentile. It's, yeah, give or take, but it's 90th. However, the 90th to, like I said, that 97, 98, 99, well, 98, 99, you know, it's about those repetitions, and some of the kids like learning 1 or 2 repetitions, and other ones need more. But it's really that whole idea of in the classroom, if they show they've mastered or they've got it, right? If they've got it, then they need to have an opportunity to move forward, no matter what percentile they are, you know. And some kids who aren't even going to register on a COGAT get something really quick and even useful.
This is the last question.
Are parents happy with this program? I think it would be great. I would love it if you talk to other parents. I think that they are. You know, we're learning, we're growing. I would love it, you know, if this was full-time and we had all the money in the world and, you know, all that kind of thing. But we're doing a lot with what we have, and people are positive. I came into this and people were all unhappy and they were negative, and we sat around a table at the district advisory committee saying all the things we weren't doing. And now we're talking about all the things we are doing. And so I feel like we're moving in the right direction. So I think we just continue that, and I think it's gotten the district to look at things differently too. I know at first they were like, yeah, it's just the GATE program, it's just this. I'm like, no, it's so much more than that. It's all about the zone of proximal development. Guys, it's all about moving kids forward, no matter who they are. This is good for everybody because it also helps all of our kids. So, you know, that's what thanks you guys.
Oh, thank you.